Today we will be taking a look at some real-life monsters, some giants, behemoths, if you will. We will be looking at the tallest bodybuilders to ever step foot on the bodybuilding stage. So I guess a gentleman like this doesn't really fit into the equation, although Martin Ford, he could fit in anywhere he wants. At 6 feet 8 inches, the guy is a true giant, but he never actually did competitive bodybuilding. And neither did this guy. This is Oliver Richards, and he's over 7 feet tall. And I figured I would make mention of both of those guys because I'm sure at least somebody would have mentioned them in the comments section below. But they have never actually did competitive bodybuilding. Today we are going to rewind back into the history of the sport and take a look at some of the tallest competitive bodybuilders, beginning with Steve Reeves. Believe it or not, Steve Reeves, tallest bodybuilder of his time. He was 6 feet 1 inch, and he was maybe the greatest bodybuilder of his time. And this gentleman here, you can't mention Steve Reeves without mentioning Reg Park. He was also 6 feet 1 inch. Both of those guys, there was no bodybuilders around taller than them at the time. Take a look at this gentleman. This is David Prowse. He stood an incredible 6 feet 5 inches. And I can almost guarantee you, everybody watching this video has seen this guy before. I'm sure some of you are shaking your head. No, I didn't, Mark's Max Muscle. Well, yes, you probably did. He was the guy that played Vader, Darth Vader. Luke, no, I am your father. See, I said it right. But anyway, he was a bodybuilder. It just so happens to be one of the tallest bodybuilders of all time. Here's Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking, well, he wasn't that tall. Yes, he was pretty tall. He was 6 feet 2 inches. And for the Mr. Olympia champion history, you look at the history of the Mr. Olympia champions, Arnold Schwarzenegger is the tallest. And in my estimation, the way the sport is evolving, or game, whatever you call it, pageant, anyway, I think that Arnold Schwarzenegger will go down in history as the tallest ever. Here's Mike Katz, guy that competed around the same time Arnold. He was listed as 6 feet 1. I don't know. I think he might have even been taller because his head was so, he had a pretty big head. Kind of looked like Frankenstein. But anyway, I love Mike Katz. 6 feet 1 inch. Here is a dude you may be surprised to see. Superstar Billy Graham. Wayne Coleman is his real name. He's listed as 6 feet 4. He might have been 6'3", but he was tall anyway, and he actually did compete. Figured it would be quite remiss to at least not mention the guy. Anyway, next on the list we have another giant. Now this is less known Manuel Perry, but he's 6 feet 2 inch, which is tall, very tall for a bodybuilder. And if you're not familiar with him, he was the guy that was in the Incredible Hulk series alongside Lou Ferrigno. He was his stunt man. I believe Nick Strength and Power actually did a video on him. But anyway, speaking of Lou, he's next on the list. And this video would not be complete without Lou Ferrigno. The guy placed second and third at the Olympia, and he was 6 feet 5 inches. So, without a doubt, he's the tallest bodybuilder to ever place that high and ever actually be a factor coming into the Olympia. So Lou Ferrigno, he could be, in some breaths, known as the tallest bodybuilder. Tallest Mr. Universe, maybe. Here's Mike Christian, and he was a competitive bodybuilder. A darn good one, too. Back in the late 80s, early 90s. 6 feet 1 inch, in my estimation. Good bodybuilder was Mike. Next guy on the list was a giant, and I guess he should have been put before Mike Christian because I think he competed before Mike Christian did. Ralph Moeller. He did eventually turn to acting. He was a whopping 6 feet 6 inches, and this guy was truly a sight to behold. I mean, the arms on him, keep in mind, 6 feet 6 inches, would have been intimidating. This dude, he played Arnold Schwarzenegger in a very low-budget film. See Arnold Run, something of that nature. This is Roland Kickinger. Kick a girl? What is that? What he did? 6 feet 4 inches. Huge big bodybuilder. Very tall, one of the tallest of all time. And the next guy was another giant. And this guy was probably 400 pounds. 400 pounds off season anyway. Greg Kovacs stood a whopping 6 feet 4 inches. And he looked thick for his height. So you could imagine this guy was probably the biggest, thickest bodybuilder of all time. Greg Kovacs. May he rest in peace, by the way. Here is Paul Dillette. Now, I believe him to be 6 feet 3 inches. Some people say he's as high as 6'5". I don't think he's that tall. He stood next to Lou Ferrigno. He was an inch, maybe 2, probably 2 inches shorter than Lou. He was listed as 6 feet 1 inch, which was a lie. He admitted that was a lie. I actually made a video on that. Anyway, Paul Dillette, he was a giant. But I think when you see this next guy, you might rethink calling Paul Dillette a giant. This guy was 7 feet 1 inch. Dalip Singh Rana. And he was an actual competitive bodybuilder. 7 feet 1 inch? Are you kidding me? Look at the size of the chest. He would just dwarf anybody. Make no mistake about it, this guy is very recognizable under his pro wrestling name, The Great Khali. That's right, guys. I'm sure most of you have heard of The Great Khali, WWE superstar. He used to be a competitive bodybuilder before he got into pro wrestling. So, goes without saying, The Great Khali, in my estimation, is the tallest competitive bodybuilder in the history of the game. Now, here is a more familiar face, at least in terms of bodybuilding. Gunther Schlierkamp. He was usually the tallest guy on the stage. 6 feet 1 inch. In this video, not that tall. Here is the X-Man, Tony Freeman, who was 6 feet 2 inch. Definitely a dying breed. Maybe one of the last bodybuilders to be 6 feet 2 inches. Anyway, next guy on the list, may he rest in peace. This is Cedric McMillan. And generally, he was the tallest guy when he competed. He was 6 feet 1 inch. And like I said, very sad, may he rest in peace. Here is a current competitor. This is Morgan Asti, 6 feet 3. Is that it? I thought he was taller than that. He is probably the most peeled, ripped bodybuilder on this list. Now, you may have noticed I have not put any classic physique competitors. This guy here is a classic physique competitor, and I wanted to shy away from that because there are so many of them guys that are 6 feet, 6 foot plus. But anyway, this guy is Aaron Reed, 6 feet 7, 6 feet 7. So he will be the one and only men's physique competitor that you will see on this list. It's for men's open competitors like this guy here, Jamie Christian. Jamie Johal, the Giant, Jamie the Giant, 6 feet 5 inches. And in my estimation, he is the tallest of the current competitors in the open class today. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this list. Great Khali, probably the tallest bodybuilder of all time. But realistically, this dude here, Ralph Moeller, is the tallest Olympian of all time. And he was a pretty good bodybuilder, guys. Make no mistake about it. I mean, he was being compared with the best of the very best back then. I mean, look at him next to Lee Haney. Very impressive bodybuilder. So, Ralph Moeller at 6 feet 6 inches. Maybe go down into the history as known as the tallest ever, at least a Mr. Olympia competitor. Hit thumbs up on the video if you enjoyed it. If you want more content like this, let me know in the comment section below. And subscribe to the channel as well. Have a great day.